You put a Queensland jersey on Dane Gagai and he finds a way to score a try.
Cam Munster, he's going to be the one to watch.
He deserves a try.
Even though he's only young, he's such a big name, he's such a promising star.
Well, we've seen plenty of this in Origin. This is one of the best. McCartney will score.
And Queensland celebrates.
He smashed.
That's a brilliant rugby league try.
Chip chase anyway? No? Something different, mix it up.
Pride is a wonderful thing for a footballer.
G'day and welcome to Queensland. A massive show coming up today in the lead up to State of Origin 2 right here in Queensland at Suncorp Stadium. But first, Lockyer, your Broncos always seem to steal the headlines. This time, Ben Ikin announced as the new football manager for the club. Do you like this decision?
I do. I think we need to pay some respects to Peter Nolan, who's left the business. But I think Dave's come in and he's got some fresh ideas and he's made some changes. I think Ben will bring a fresh perspective. He's basically been doing a 10-year course on NRL clubs.
Every night, yeah.
Yeah, in his job. So I guess he understands the intrinsic parts of the NRL clubs out there and what is successful and what's not. And I think he'll come with some fresh ideas and a fresh perspective, and I think that'll be exactly what the club needs right now.
And what do you think he can do differently in terms of player retention and recruitment in that role?
Well, look, I think he's not going to rush into anything which people may question a little bit later. I think he's had enough experience working in the media to understand that you just take your time in getting into it, make sure that you're fully aware of all of the scenery around you before you start making any big calls. And he's had some good experience as a player that's developed into further roles to understand that time is the most precious value of all.
Is it a risk though, Lockie? You've got an inexperienced playing group, you've got an inexperienced coach, now you've got an inexperienced football manager in terms of he hasn't done that role before?
Oh, look, time will tell, but I don't think so. I think, Ben obviously wanted to be back in clubland and in particular the Broncos when he went for the CEO role.
Does that make it awkward though with Donaghy then?
No, I don't know. I think Ben acknowledges that that Dave was the standout candidate, and he was. He was the CEO at the Storm at the time. Ben, I think it's a good indication from him that he wants to come and make a difference, leaving the job that he's got now, because obviously where he's going now comes with scrutiny. But he's doing it for the right reasons, and I just think. I think he'd be good just knowing his temperament, knowing his intellect. I think him and Dave are already aligned on a lot of things, and that's a good sign.
And does this rule out Wayne Bennett not coming back now? Can we officially put a line through it?
Well, that's probably going to be the most common point of discussion by a lot of people. There'll be a fair conversation with it. Look, I think they're both very well-trained professionals. What I have no idea about is their feelings, their understanding on a personal issue because of the position that they both hold. And that must be surely a very tough one. But having had a bit of time with Wayne Bennett and hearing from him, I certainly don't think there'd be any difficulty from Wayne, and Ben appears to have gone ahead in leaps and bounds, and in his position working in the media he's had to be neutral and sit there. Personal discussion is a lot different, I can understand that, but I think that these two guys are professionals, and usually when they volunteer for a position professionally, they're very determined to succeed.
And Lockie, Broncos still on the bottom of the ladder, even below the Bulldogs. Is there a scenario Kevy could get sacked this year, especially if there's more stories of player revolt coming out, or you don't see that as being...
No, I don't think that's a scenario. I mean, look, a lot of coaches come in, they have different views to the previous coach, so the roster is obviously one thing that changes. And, the club's got Adam Reynolds coming. Kevy's been talking a lot in the media about the changing of the roster, and I think until he gets the players in the roster that he's been trying to secure at the club, I think that's when you sort of start to really judge his coaching capabilities.
And while upon reflection, does it look like the Kevy appointment was a bit rushed? There's almost a view that it was just done to appease the old boys, not get the best coach in, or is that wrong?
Well, I don't know. Probably the only ones that could that answer that one would be the people that were in positions of power at the time, and I don't think we're about to get any answer from them. I can probably see what you're saying and how a lot of people would jump to that conclusion, without doubt. But I think certainly when you get in a position like that, the power and the future of the club has got to be your number one priority. So certainly there would have been plenty of common sense attached to that decision.
I think just on that, I think in the pursuit of the club looking to get Craig Bellamy there, and the fallout with Wayne, and then we chose a different direction. We went away from our DNA with Anthony Seibold, and he worked extremely hard at his job there, and it obviously didn't work out. And then so we've gone back to our DNA in Kevy Walters, and at the moment it's a bit of a rough ride. But as I said, there is going to be some changes made, both from a football club department, which Dave's implementing now, and then obviously the roster is the other key factor, and there will be some signings coming, and that'll give, I guess, Kevy a lot more confidence about where he's heading next year.
And two players on those roster is Tavita Pangai and Matt Lodge being told they can negotiate with other clubs and leave if they want to. Should they still be picked in first grade, Wal, or should you send them back to the Queensland Cup? My
look at that always has been, Adam, that you pick the best team available to put it on your field, particularly if there appears to be a little bit of dissent in the camp because we're not winning. You always do pick your best. I can understand the long-term future, and I probably liken myself to when I made my exit from the Broncos. I can remember Bennett said that he didn't think that my retention was in the best interests of the Broncos long term. They went out and won a premiership a couple of years later, so that was proved to be quite correct. This time around, I guess it's very hard to come up with that, but Kevy certainly has put in, as you and I have seen quite regularly with our visits to the Broncos. He's been very determined to succeed, probably been confused at different times and wondering, where do we go from here, but he's not a quitter. He's certainly not going to give up, and let's hope that he can work in his best ways and receive plenty of support from both his team and his support staff.
Look, there's no denying they can play footy, and I guess I'd pick them every week and know that they're going to give you their best, and I guess while they're still guaranteed what their contract says, regardless of what club they're at. I think it's a good test of their character and how they respond to it. So, Matt Lodge has probably had this hanging over his head for a little while now, and I think he still played good football, so it's a credit to him. And it's only really just sort of been, I guess, on Tavita's, mind now, and it's up to him now. I mean, they got a bye. He's been suspended for 3 weeks, so he won't be playing for another 5 weeks. So for him, it's how he carries himself, around the training paddock for the next, 4 weeks.
Lockie, we've got to say that it was in an interview after the game last week that I saw that the expression that was on his face, and he was sort of doing it a little bit tough to understand that he may be going somewhere else. It certainly wasn't something that I think that he's had his mind in his mind previously. No, well, I think now that it's, I guess, well, not official, but now that it's been sort of, I guess, put on that he is welcome to talk to other clubs. That psychologically that does something to you. But at the same time, if you're if you're another club that's interested in Tavita, then I guess you're looking at him the way he responds to this, and even from the Broncos' perspective.
And then on the other side of the coin, another thing that baffles fans. You've got Pangai and Lodge. Corey Oates is clearly out of favour with Kevin Walters for some reason. He's actually playing good, but he refuses to pick him. He's been killing it in the Intrust Super Cup. Surely he's in the best 17. If the Broncos are legitimate about winning games and picking the best 17 each week, like Wal said, surely you've got to put him in the team. Well, like, it seems weird that if you don't want Oates, OK, you've sent him to the Queensland Cup, but we don't want Pangai and Lodge either, but we're going to play them?
Oh, look, I think maybe that's just a question for Kevy. I mean, I guess, he obviously doesn't think the form Corey's in is enough to warrant selection in first grade. But I can't answer that.
It's a question for Kevy.
Yeah.
I'm a passionate Corey Oates supporter. I want to
and
see
Kyle
it.
Felt.
And Kyle Felt.
And I think we've both discussed it a couple of times, you and I sitting alongside each other here in the newsroom, Adam, where we've talked about Oates and the form that he's displayed whenever he's got the chance. I'm a Corey Oates fan as well, and having spoken to him a couple of times, the extreme disappointment. I've seen blokes that have been furious, ready to, blow up, almost knock out the coach for not selections. He doesn't go into that department, but he's sort of lost. He's a lost soul, and he's very disappointed about it. Let's just hope that he can, get himself or earn another chance at the top and prove that, I'm back and I certainly deserve my position. Won't be easy, but he's one of those players that we know that if he gets a shot, he'll make the best of it and won't waste it.
Yeah, it just seems bizarre. Some of their best performances of the season, he's starred when he has played. That game against Penrith where they almost won, he was essentially man of the match. But we can talk about the Broncos forever, Lockie. Let's talk about State of Origin games Sunday night.
Isn't there a State of Origin on?
Yeah.
Sometime.
But they're criticising us straight away south of the border. Our pick and stick philosophy thrown out the window. 5 changes made. Does that mean that's gone?
Well, to clarify that, it's only 4 really, because Papali'i comes back into the team. He would have been in game 1. No, look, I mean, when you get beaten 50-6, it's not easy to pick and stick.
Yeah.
While we're the defending champions.
And I guess Harry Grant got injured, so technically that's not really a change.
Yeah. So we're down to 3 changes, right? Look, it's again, pick and stick is not always easy when you've been beaten or lapped really by the opposition.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about Reece Walsh. Well, any concerns? One of the youngest players ever, 18. Is he up to it? Are you worried about him?
No, I'm not. I came out with that age-old statement that if you're good enough, you're old enough. I've watched this kid play. I must admit I was a bit confused as to why he wasn't going to be hanging around the Broncos. Perhaps that they felt that they had the position covered, which they certainly have the right to do. But having seen a couple of his performances for the Warriors, he's got that bit about him that he's got plenty of thrill in his game. He goes searching for opportunities, for space, seems to run some great angles. This time, though, he is stepping up a little bit in the class of the game that he will be playing, and certainly I expect the Blues will go out there and they're going to say, we're going to make this the most painful introduction to Origin football that's ever existed. Whether that goes into effect or not will only be decided by his performances, but he's a guy that I certainly do like what he's got. He appears to have plenty of class in his play, and he's a freewheeler. He tends to venture into plenty of attacking spots, not just lock himself into one entry point in the back line.
Yeah, look, I think what I can say is that the conversation around the selection table, there was a lot of consideration around Reece in terms of, is he too young? So all of those things were deliberated and discussed for quite a long time. So we're obviously, conscious of the welfare of Reece, but we all came to the conclusion that we think he's up to it. He's done some special things at NRL and he is stepping up, but we also think he's a player that if he does make an error in a game, he moves on pretty quick. Right? So we're aware of all the, I guess, the pros and cons to playing someone of that age, but we all know he's a special talent. And, it's up to, we put some mechanisms in through the week to try and shield him from all the preparation and the build up to the game, but at the same time, I think that's also the elder teammates, the forwards. It's up to them to protect the rookie.
Lockie, do you sort of recognise the class that he's got on board? I mean, you're a guy that came in. I can remember going to watch you when you first came to the club, 5'8". You went to fullback, spent some time there before returning to 5'8". That's something about the play that he's got class all over him. He just ventures into some open spaces.
Oh, look, he's an athlete. He sees things. He's got skill, so he knows how to. I think Paul Green. Ideally, Carlin Ponga was available. Paul Green wanted to play a certain style. Yep. And when he looks at the players he wants to pick to play that style, then at the moment the next best is Reece Walsh, right? But he's fully aware that, it is a big challenge for him, but at the same time he's going to, I guess, be considerate of his welfare. So I'm confident. I'm sure his teammates are confident that he can play well. His teammates have got a role to play in looking after their teammates. Yeah.
And Billy Slater's also in camp this week, mentoring him too, so who better to learn off than one of the greatest fullbacks of all time. Another point of contention was the selection of the centres. While they copped a bit of criticism because Trbojevic and Latrell Mitchell ran right in game one. Was it the right decision to stick with Capewell and Gagai?
Well, look, I don't know. We could have gone.
We don't have anyone else.
In any other direction.
Yeah.
I think the message from the coach and the selectors was earlier that they were very restricted in the talent that they had available to play there. They picked these guys and they have performed extremely well previously. So we're getting a little bit hard to put the pencil through their name just on the disappointment of defeat in the last game.
Look, Dane Gagai, his feats at Origin level, and look, I think he was in hospital regardless of, and Capewell, other than Turbo's first try, Turbo then just started to play like a fullback and roam everywhere.
And Capewell got one back
on him. So, again, we're confident that both those guys can do a really good job defensively if the forwards do their job up front. And that was the big issue game one, that they rolled through the middle of the field very easily, and then the backs just had so much space. So, those edge backs are going to have a better opportunity to stop, the New South Wales attacking. I guess they're freaks. Turbo, Latrell. They got a best chances of stopping them or mitigating them if the forwards do their job.
And one of those forwards who's been given a rocket, David Fifita, dropped to the bench. Walt, do you like that? That'll probably fire him up.
Yeah, probably will. I guess that would have been the message coming from the coach, delivered that when we get the opportunity to put you on your field, we want you to perform. Look, he's proven previously that he's quite capable, one of the most powerful ball carriers in the game, and certainly one that could make things a little bit tough on the edge of the ruck for the New South Wales defence, particularly running at the 6s and 7s. So that would be one of the hopes that once he gets on there, and usually when players put on the bench after starting a game, they get a little bit cranky about it and think, the selectors, and the coach, they're probably, not seeing the best of me, but I know I can perform better than that, and that promises great things when he eventually gets onto the field. I think he will once again, but certainly Queensland are going to have to be making plenty of territory and have got a roll on for when he comes onto the football field to make sure that they can make the most of it.
Yeah, I guess there's two parts to that. I guess one the tactic side of things is that Dave's he can be damaging, right?
He's an X factor, yeah.
He's an X factor, but maybe that first 20 minutes, the energy spent in getting through that just dilutes his impact. He's still a young kid, and he's only started in one Origin in his career, and that was the first game. So. Back to the bench. Yes, he'd be disappointed with that, but it's how you react to it.
Yeah, we've got to remember he's still got the P plates on. Yeah. He hasn't been there in that position too long, and it is a fair team that they're playing up against. So he's got the learning going.
And Lockie, why Andrew McCulloch at hooker instead of throwing Ben Hunt straight in, or is it just purely rotation?
Oh, look, there's no doubt Ben Hunt will get plenty of time at hooker, but Ben Hunt also covers your halves. So, and this is the thing when you're picking a bench now, you've got to really think of an outside back, HIA or injury. So we're sort of lucky in that Capewell can move or Gagai can move, really. But, again, it's about having Ben Hunt, come into the game when potentially the sting's gone out of it.
Yeah, and for Queensland to win, level the series, well, who needs to stand up?
Oh, I think it's the forwards. The whole pack. They've got to make some pretty good territory virtually every time they're carting the ball. We're in a bit of trouble. We're on the back foot, certainly in game one. So I think especially the big boys up front, they've got to make sure that they make as much territory as possible. I don't think Paul will change the pattern of play for this game. He might make some small changes, but I think that we've got to see Queensland certainly become more dominant. And if they can do that, certainly the forwards will be the ones with the biggest smile on their face at the end of the day.
And who's the most important New South Wales player to stop, Lockyer?
Oh, look, I guess most people would say Turbo, but, again, we've got to stop the momentum up the front. So I'd say the two New South Wales front rowers are the most important people to stop.
Yep. And special coverage on Channel 9. You won't just get the normal coverage 7 o'clock on the Sunday. You'll get 9 now special streaming services, including Spider Cam, Coach Cam, player-specific follow cams. We all remember last year in the grand final, Coach Cam on Craig Bellamy was compelling viewing. So hopefully Freddie or Greenie will give us something. But boys, before we wrap it up, I'll get you a tip. I think, as a Queenslander, unfortunately, if I had to put my money in, I think New South Wales win this game for the first time in my tipping career.
Yeah.
I know it's hard for you guys because you're ex-players.
Well, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
Look,
I'll jump in too, Lockie. I'll say that my loyalty lies with Queensland. Never have tipped against Queensland, I don't think, and not about to start.
Look, obviously, I'm not going to. I think if Queensland win, it'll be close.
Yeah.
I know New South Wales are going to play well. They use Townsville as motivation to go up there and say, well, look, they tried to win one over us, taking the game to Townsville. We'll show you. And now they're going to use Suncorp as motivation. So if Queensland win, and I think we can, it'll be tight. Man of the match. For me, I think it's got to be Christian Welsh. We missed him in game one, and if we're going to win the middle, I think he's the leader of our forwards. So I think
his pressure on the kickers is also outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
Clear, which we kind of missed in game one when he went off.
Yeah, I'd go for Munster. I think that he'll probably step up and certainly take control. Despite sometimes being 2 passes wide of the ruck. But he's also got to make sure that his attacking flair makes life a little bit difficult for the Blues defence on the edge of the ruck. And I think the more that they can turn New South Wales around to their intentions of dominance in the middle and make it start from as often as possible from deep inside their own territory, particularly early in the match, is one of the biggest plans for Queensland.
And I see you got Monday's headline.
Yeah, Monday's headline. What do we go with there?
I reckon he's old enough.
He's old enough. Oh, with Reece Walsh scoring the winning try to
There's
win.
a classic, yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. He's a wonderful player. I've had a thrill watching this young man play, and that's a pretty good headline. Or you could just say another one, which is pretty close by, with a learner plate. He's a learner no more. He's not on L plates any longer.
I reckon I'm looking forward to the first kicky catches. I think there'll be a huge roar.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of support. He won't be short there.
And hopefully it does turn out to a win for Queensland and we level the series. Make sure you stay tuned to Wide World of Sports, your home of State of Origin action.